Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're pulling apart the core arguments from a really fascinating text called "Why Most People Stay Broke."
Hmm.
And it also covers how the wealthy think differently.
Yeah, it's a great one. And our mission for this conversation is to, well, sort of solve a very specific, very frustrating mystery for you.
Right, because we are definitely not here to just rehash standard dry financial advice. Like if you're listening to this deep dive, you already know the math.
Exactly. You know you're supposed to work hard and spend less. That's not a secret.
No, not at all. So what we're targeting today are the underlying psychological shifts. We want to explain why two people earning the exact same salary, working the exact same hours, can end up 10 years later with completely different lives.
Right, where one is entirely financially free and the other is just, quietly drowning in debt.
Yeah, it's wild, and it's a massive gap in how we prepare people for life.
Hmm.
The text argues that this gap is almost entirely behavioral.
It really is. I mean, think about it. We spend over a decade in school learning the mechanical rules of mathematics,
Oh,
right?
totally. Calculus, algebra, all of it.
Yeah, but we are completely denied the playbook for applied financial psychology. It's completely missing.
It reminds me of someone meticulously teaching you how every piece on a chessboard moves. Like, the knight goes in an L shape,
Right.
and the bishop stays on its color. You memorize all the mechanics. But then they set you loose in a tournament, and nobody ever taught you the actual strategy of how to win the game.
That is a perfect analogy. And the source material tackles this by immediately just dismantling the most pervasive myth in our culture, which is this assumption that income equals wealth.
Oh, yeah. The income illusion.
Yeah.
We all kind of default to thinking that a high salary is the finish line, don't we?
We do. But the text points out that if that were true, the math would be simple, and we wouldn't see that crazy phenomenon of, professional athletes or lottery winners going completely bankrupt.
Right, like just a few years after coming into tens of millions of dollars. We see those headlines all the time.
Constantly.
But let's look at the mechanism there. Like, why does a high earner sweat the mortgage while some mid-level manager quietly builds a massive portfolio?
Well, the math simply doesn't add up unless you factor in the behavioral friction. The text anchors this entire discussion on one main principle.
Which is?
Wealth isn't what you earn, it is what you keep.
Ah, right. Wealth is what you keep.
Exactly. And the mechanism that usually destroys the high earner is lifestyle inflation. It's often driven by the psychological concept called hedonic adaptation.
Hedonic adaptation. So meaning, as our income rises, our baseline expectations for comfort and status just rise right alongside it.
Spot on. You make more, so suddenly you feel like you need more just to feel normal.
Instead of the usual treadmill analogy people use for this, I actually look at lifestyle inflation like a smartphone software update.
Oh, okay. So,
Well, you get a raise, right? Which is like getting a newer, faster processor for your phone. You're super excited.
yeah.
But that new operating system comes with all these heavy background apps that just start automatically running.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah. So you upgrade your car lease, or you move to a zip code with higher property taxes. You develop a taste for premium subscriptions, organic groceries, whatever it is.
And those background apps silently drain your battery.
Exactly. You never actually experience the speed of the faster processor because the system load just increased proportionally to eat up the new capacity.
That makes total sense. You're earning more, but your financial battery is constantly hovering at like
Yeah.
10%.
Yeah, just constantly in low power mode. So if the system load is always going to expand to consume the available resources, which I guess is essentially Parkinson's law applied to personal finance, how do we actually bypass that human tendency?
Well, the text argues we have to restructure the fundamental sequence of how we handle capital.
Restructure the sequence.
Yeah.
Okay, break that down for us.
So the standard sequence, the one that feels completely intuitive to almost everybody, is you earn money, you spend it on necessities and lifestyle, and then you just save whatever's left over at the end of the month.
Right, the save what's left method. But relying on what is left over requires willpower.
And we know how reliable willpower is.
Right, because by the end of the month, your cognitive load and decision fatigue have completely depleted your willpower reserves.
Precisely. Willpower is a finite resource. When saving only happens if there's money left over, it rarely happens.
So what's the wealthy sequence then?
The wealthy sequence just flips this order completely. They save and invest the very moment the capital arrives. They entirely automate the process, and then they force their lifestyle to fit into whatever the remainder is.
So they remove the prefrontal cortex from the equation entirely.
Exactly. You don't even have to make a choice. It's done for you.
I want to talk about the biological mismatch happening here, though, because automating savings makes logical sense on paper, but it really fights against our evolutionary hardwiring.
It definitely does.
Right, because our brains evolved in an environment where delaying gratification was actually a terrible idea. If our ancestors found calories, they needed to consume them immediately before they spoiled, or, before someone stole them.
Yeah, survival meant consuming right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when I have discretionary income today, I can get a massive instantaneous dopamine hit by just ordering something online with one click. So what is happening in the brain that makes investing feel so unnatural to us?
You're hitting on a concept called hyperbolic discounting.
Hyperbolic discounting.
Yeah, it's a cognitive bias. Basically, we heavily prefer smaller immediate rewards over much larger delayed rewards. The brain just really struggles to emotionally connect with its future self.
That makes so much sense, because buying a new smartphone today triggers immediate dopamine. But routing that same money into like a broad market index fund, that feels entirely abstract.
Right, it feels like giving your money to a stranger. You don't feel the benefit of it.
So we are essentially fighting thousands of years of evolution telling us to consume right now?
We are. And the source material's answer to this isn't to just, try harder or be better.
Thank goodness, because that never works.
No, it doesn't. The answer is to accept that investing is inherently boring to the primitive part of our brain. They actually use this great tree analogy in the text.
Oh yeah, the planting seeds analogy.
Right. If you get $100, you can spend it for a few hours of immediate happiness, or you can invest it, which is planting it. That investment becomes a small tree, which eventually grows fruit, and those fruits plant new trees. It's the quiet power of compounding.
That tree analogy sounds great, it really does. But in reality, on behalf of the listener here, waiting 20 years for an apple is incredibly boring when I can buy a new gadget for an instant dopamine hit today.
And that's exactly the point. The text validates this entirely. Boring is exactly what builds wealth.
Really? Boring is the secret.
Yes. Consistency beats intensity. The investors who build generational wealth aren't relying on the adrenaline of timing the market or picking the perfect meme stock. They just build an automated system that functions regardless of their emotional state.
Regardless of the current economic headlines or whatever panic is on the news.
Exactly. So if we commit to planting these financial seeds first, what exactly are we planting? This brings us to the crucial difference in what we actually choose to buy.
Right, the distinction the text makes between assets and liabilities. Now, for our audience, we obviously don't need to define the basic accounting terms. We all know an asset puts money in your pocket and a liability takes it out.
Right, that's baseline knowledge.
But what fascinates me is the cognitive dissonance. Why do highly educated, intelligent people who absolutely know what an asset is, consistently choose to accumulate liabilities while convincing themselves they're building wealth?
That is where the text leans heavily into sociological pressures. It's all about signaling theory. To illustrate this, the source material presents a really interesting scenario with two colleagues who received the exact same $5,000 bonus.
Okay, let's break down the psychology of what they do with it. What does the first colleague do?
So the first colleague uses it as a down payment to lease a brand new luxury vehicle. Now, from a pure accounting perspective, they just traded cash for a depreciating liability.
The liability that also demands ongoing maintenance, insurance, and interest payments, right?
Exactly. It's bleeding cash. But from a sociological perspective, they purchased a status signal. Humans use visual cues to establish hierarchy, and this person is just responding to the biological imperative to signal success to the tribe.
Wow. So they are buying status, not wealth. And what about the second colleague?
The second colleague quietly revs that $5,000 into an investment portfolio, or maybe uses it as seed capital for a side venture. On day one, their choice is completely invisible. They gain absolutely zero social status. No one at the office is congratulating them.
Right, because nobody sees an index fund transfer.
Exactly. But a year later, the first colleague's vehicle has lost 20% of its value and continues to drain their monthly cash flow. Meanwhile, The second colleague's capital has either compounded or generated new income streams.
So we are literally fighting our own desire for status.
Yes.
The pressure to look wealthy, which is especially amplified by social media these days, actually destroys our ability to become wealthy. Real wealth it's completely invisible.
It really is invisible. You don't see someone's diversified portfolio when they walk down the street.
Right. Or the emergency fund that allows them to sleep soundly at night. You only see the performative wealth, the leased cars, the designer clothing, the huge houses.
And the text suggests a fascinating heuristic for you to use before deploying capital, like a filter question.
Oh, I love this part. Tell them the question.
Ask yourself, will this purchase make me look richer to strangers, or will it actually help me become richer?
That is so powerful. Look richer versus become richer.
Yeah, it's a filter that forces you to acknowledge whether you are buying utility or just buying status.
Okay, but even armed with that filter and understanding the trap of status signaling, people still get derailed. They still fail to execute.
They do. And the text highlights a couple of major behavioral traps that catch even very well-informed people. Let's unpack the first one, which is the trap of inaction, or, paralysis by analysis.
Paralysis by analysis. Where does that stem from?
It usually stems from loss aversion. People are so terrified of making a suboptimal investment choice that they just sit in cash, waiting for the quote-unquote perfect moment.
Waiting for the market to crash so they can buy the dip.
Right. They wait for the economy to stabilize, for a promotion, or they literally spend years researching the perfect asset allocation without ever buying anything.
But the mathematical reality of compounding dictates that a mediocre strategy executed consistently starting today will almost always beat a perfect strategy executed 5 years from now.
Absolutely, because time is the one variable in the compounding equation that does the real heavy lifting.
And it is the only resource you cannot replenish. You can't get those 5 years back.
Never. Now, the source material contrasts this inaction with its polar opposite, which is equally destructive.
Right, the trap of chasing overnight success.
Yes. This is essentially the lottery mindset disguised as investing.
Disguised as investing, like chasing secret strategies or whatever crypto coin is trending this week.
Exactly. It's the illusion of control. People chasing highly speculative, volatile assets aren't investing. They are gambling. They're just trying to satisfy that immediate dopamine craving we discussed earlier.
And furthermore, this trap often involves using bad debt, right? Like leveraging borrowed money not to build a productive asset, but to finance a highly risky gamble or just an unsustainable lifestyle.
Oh, absolutely. And when you utilize leverage that way, your past decisions completely dictate your future choices.
What do you mean by that?
Well, when your monthly cash flow is entirely consumed by debt obligations, paying off credit cards, car loans, your optionality drops to zero. You have no choices left.
Which brings the text to a critical redefinition of what financial success actually looks like. It isn't about having a private jet or accumulating the most luxury goods.
No, not at all. It is about maximizing your options. Financial confidence is the ability to handle a medical emergency without panic.
Right, or having the leverage to just walk away from a toxic work environment because you have a runway.
Exactly. But, there's a common objection here.
Yeah, actually, I want to play devil's advocate for a second and push back on the underlying premise of this entire philosophy.
Let's hear it.
So we're talking about delaying gratification, ignoring social signaling, and ruthlessly living below our means. At what point does optimizing for the future cross the line into just promoting a miserable, ascetic lifestyle today? Like we are constantly delaying joy for a future that isn't guaranteed. Aren't we kind of missing the point of being alive right now?
It is a vital critique. It really is. And the source material navigates this by reframing what it actually means to live below your means. The text argues that the gap between your income and your expenses isn't deprivation. That gap is your margin of safety. It's purchased opportunity.
Okay, but how does someone practically maintain that gap without feeling the psychological weight of deprivation, like missing out on things their friends are doing?
By utilizing gratitude as an active psychological tool, not just a passive feeling.
Active gratitude. How does that work in finance?
Well, when we engage in constant upward comparison, looking at those who have more on social media, we trigger that hedonic treadmill we talked about.
Oh, yeah.
And spending becomes an anxious attempt to close the gap.
Right, trying to keep up with the Joneses.
Sure, exactly. But active gratitude acts as a circuit breaker. It forces the brain to recognize sufficiency. When you establish what actually brings you utility and joy, rather than what society dictates should bring you joy, you can spend lavishly on those few things and just cut mercilessly everywhere else.
Oh, I see. That makes the process sound much more like capital allocation and way less like a restrictive diet.
Because it is entirely about capital allocation. You're funding your actual priorities. And the text distills all the psychology into a very strict blueprint. It gives us 5 actionable rules of wealth. Let's walk through them.
Let's do it. So starting with rule 1, pay yourself first. We already covered the mechanics of this with the automation, but it's fundamentally about consistency over size, right?
Yes. It's about prioritizing your future self over your present impulses by making saving automatic, even if it's a small amount.
Got it. Rule 2, buy assets before luxuries.
And this is an important distinction. This is not a mandate against luxury. The text isn't saying you can never have nice things.
Right. It's a sequencing rule.
Exactly. You must build the foundation of ownership that generates value first. That way, the yield from your assets eventually pays for your luxuries, rather than your actual physical labor paying for them.
That's a huge shift in mindset. Rule 3, keep learning. I mean, the financial landscape shifts constantly. Tax codes change, new asset classes emerge.
Yeah, and the text posits that knowledge is an asset with an uncapped compound annual growth rate. You read, you listen, you study. It's the highest return investment you can make.
Which brings us to rule 4, stay patient. Now, I want to find a better mental model for patience than the standard advice, because in a world of one-click purchases and instant streaming, beating wealth slowly feels agonizing.
It really does. How do you visualize it?
Well, building wealth isn't just waiting around. It is like structural engineering. When you build a skyscraper, you spend months just digging a massive hole in the ground and pouring concrete.
Right. The foundation phase.
Exactly. From the outside, it looks like nothing is happening. It looks like a massive race of time and money. People walking by are like, what are they even doing down there? But you cannot build 100 stories into the air without a foundation that goes deep into the bedrock. So patience in finance is the invisible work of pouring the foundation. Like brushing your teeth, doing it once does nothing, but doing it daily prevents decay.
That is highly accurate model. The visible growth only happens after the structural integrity is established. If you rush it, the whole thing collapses.
Totally.
Which leads us to the final rule. Rule 5. Define success for yourself.
And this ties right back into the signaling theory we discussed.
Yeah.
If you do not explicitly define what financial independence looks like for you, the market will define it for you.
And the market's definition will always require you to spend more money. Always.
Right. Because the market wants you to be a consumer.
If your definition of success is simply paying off a mortgage and having the flexibility to dictate your own schedule, your strategy to achieve that will be vastly different and honestly, likely much less stressful than someone who allows social media to convince them they need a private jet.
Taking control of that definition requires action, though. It's not just a thought experiment. So based on the behavioral shifts we've analyzed today, here is a challenge for you, the listener, over the next 7 days.
A 7-day challenge. I like it.
Yeah, because we know that systemic change doesn't happen through sudden, massive overhauls. It happens through micro adjustments. So pick just one point of behavioral friction to eliminate this week.
Just one.
Just one. Maybe you log into your portal and automate a small percentage of your paycheck directly into an investment account, or start an emergency fund before you ever even see the money.
Or maybe you apply that filter question to one significant purchase you're considering this week. Ask yourself, am I buying this to look richer or to become richer? Skip one purchase to invest instead.
Choose one action that forces a change in your system. Now, to close our discussion, I know you had a final provocative thought to leave everybody with.
I do. I want to leave the listener with a philosophical pivot on everything we just covered. It builds right on the text.
Okay, let's hear it.
We spent this entire deep dive dissecting how to track the return on your capital, right? Understanding assets, avoiding bad debt, leveraging compounding. But what if you started tracking the return on your time?
The return on your time, let's break that down.
Well, time is the ultimate non-renewable asset. You can always generate more capital. You cannot generate more time.
That's very true.
So if true wealth is actually optionality and freedom, perhaps the ultimate budget isn't just measuring dollars. It is calculating how many hours of your future freedom you are purchasing with every single capital allocation you make today.
Wow. So when you buy an asset, you aren't just trying to make a line on a chart go up. You are literally buying back a Tuesday morning 10 years from now.
You are purchasing the autonomy of your future self. That's the ultimate ROI.
That reframes the entire concept of investing. You are exchanging present labor for future time.
Exactly.
What a profound way to look at it. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We have explored the cognitive dissonance of liabilities, the necessity of automation, and the psychology of invisible wealth.
It's been a great conversation.
If this conversation shifted how you view your own systems, share this knowledge with someone else who's trying to figure out the strategy of the game. Alter that one habit today, pour that structural foundation, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.